Okay.
Hello, everybody. It's the old fella here. And I have with me today the one and only
Phil from Wings of Pegasus. Hello.
That's my first question. How did you come up with the name for the band?
Well, it was just, I don't know, probably part of being a Winger fan, a Kip Winger. That's probably in my subconscious somewhere. And it was myself and my second guitarist at the time. I was probably, I don't know, 28 or 29 years of age. And we were just trying to come up with band names. And I think the problem is trying to find a band name that sounds like the kind of music you play, because I play kind of melodic hard rock with a kind of 80s vibe to it. So it was just trying to find something that, I don't know where I came up with the Pegasus. I don't know where that came in, but just a kind of mythical creature. So just the Wings of Pegasus. I don't know. I said it, and then obviously did the search on the internet to find if there were any other bands called Wings of Pegasus, because especially nowadays in the times of the internet and Google searches and all that kind of stuff, it's almost more important to be the first result than to have a band name that other people might have. And you're kind of trying to share that space with other bands. So first of all, just kind of came up with it. Like I said, Winger was probably in the back of my mind somewhere, and then typed it in. And then when I found that there weren't any other bands called that, then I thought, well, that's kind of a good reason, because I think it sounds kind of 80s anyway. So it was just thinking of it and coming up with it, trying to find a band name, really. So that was it. No kind of inspiring story or set of circumstances. It's literally just trying to think of something.
Yeah, that's all right. It's basically similar to how I got my YouTube name. Somebody at work called me Mr. B all the time, so I put the old in front of it, put it on, found out there's nobody else with it. That's it. Job done.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. Right, next thing I want to ask you is, how many guitars do you own?
Now, this is a question that I do get on my live streams, and I can't remember because I always have to try and count them out in my head. So I will try, starting here in the background. Roughly, I think it's maybe 9 or 10. I think it's around that kind of number, maybe 8 or 9 or 10 or something. But yeah, I'd have to count through them. But that includes like a bass guitar. So
you surprised me.
Yeah, well, I think.
Well, no, I thought you'd have more.
Yeah, I think I would have more if I wasn't quite strict with myself, because I know that there's only so much, that you can make, and doing this kind of thing, you need to be quite strict, I think, with finances, making sure that you can keep everything going. And especially when people donate their money, I think if people donated me money and then I said, oh, I'm going to take a few weeks off because I'm buying a few new guitars, it means that I can't afford to keep my equipment going and pay my bills, but I've got a new guitar. I think everything that I get, I just put into, hard drives and any equipment that I need and interfaces that might be going wrong and leads and all that kind of stuff. I put it all in that fund, but this is why I kind of have to be strict, because I know that if I started buying guitars, then everything would go downhill. I'd run out of money straight away.
I brought all mine. I got 13.
Yeah, right? That's a similar kind of thing. Yeah,
but I brought them while I was working.
Yeah,
because I don't make money on YouTube, believe you me, because copyright. But I don't mind, as long as that money's going to the artist. I'm all for it. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, because today I was just restringing. You got any 7 strings?
No, I haven't. Yeah, mine are all 6 strings.
I was just restringing my 7 string today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually in drop A.
This is it. The other thing about, especially heavier genres of music, and I know that that's something that you listen to a lot of, and hence like the 7 string giving you access to kind of detuning and all that kind of stuff. But it's the sound that is so heavy nowadays. Back in the day, like in the 80s, just detuning down to like E flat was like, whoa, that's so kind of low. It's just taking it down a semitone. But now, they go down to D and D flat and C. You can just keep on taking it down. But that's just the way that it's gone. It's just well, drop D was the whole kind of Nirvana thing. Everyone started to copy that, but yeah, just that sound. I'm not into kind of doing loads of D tuning. I'm just E flat really is as far as I go.
I drop D because I had a problem with my carpal tunnel.
All right, yeah.
I invented shredding different way. I slid down the strings and there's all my skin because I can't feel it. And I'm pressing so hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, that shouldn't happen. But yeah, so I tend to play a lot like I'm not I just mess about. I mean, the intro is my own thing, just me being silly, come flying in. I don't know if you've seen it, but
yeah.
It's just done for fun. I'm all right doing an intro, but don't ask me to do much longer than that. Someone says, well, why you get a load of intros and join them up? It does work. I tried it. But yeah, so you see, you've got that guitar on the wall behind you, which is a travel guitar, isn't it?
Yeah, the Mugabe. Yeah, I can only see myself just either side of my shoulders. So
yeah, that's fine. Yeah. You see, because what's your favorite guitar?
Right, my favorite, I would probably have to say, and it kind of varies, but the one that I use live all the time and have used live probably since the age of 24, 25 is my Ibanez Geo. I mean, it's like an entry-level Ibanez, but it's one of those guitars that suits my genetics and kind of the way that I play in it. Even though it's I think it's only about 350 quid when I got it. It was just a guitar that I was playing loads of other, because I worked in a shop at that time teaching. So it meant that if somebody cancelled their lesson, I just had the run of the shop, so I could go around trying all the different guitars. And yeah, I was trying loads of different guitars that, were really expensive, like maybe $1,000 and $2,000. And then I picked up the Geo and thought, hang on, this feels better to me than these other guitars that are just crazily priced. So I bought that, and it's just one of those that, especially kind of with the Floyd Rose bridge as well, meant that I could do dive bombs and all that kind of stuff. But, it just had a really nice aggressive sound. And I think when it was paired with my amp, it was just a really good combination. So yeah, I went for that. So I think people expect me to have some really expensive guitar for live, but it's just, I think you just kind of get your favorite guitar and stick with it.
I think you just answered one of the biggest questions. Like, how much did you pay for a guitar? It's not, it's what suits you.
Yeah.
Now, I've got what I call a government funded guitar, right? Because of the heating things, whatever, as old folks got 150 quid.
All right. Yeah.
Right? Thomann, Germany. T-style they did for £149.
Yeah.
So I got it. And I tell you what, I'm so surprised how good it is.
Yeah.
I believe it for the price. And I'm thinking, and it's like, because it's not expensive, it doesn't matter about it. You just want to play it. So so that's called a government funded guitar. So I hope nobody from the government watches this. But this is it. I mean, I don't own an acoustic guitar because I can't say this anymore. I get shot. I used to say, because a friend of mine says, "Oh, I just got a new guitar." I go, "What you got?" He says, "I've got an acoustic." I said, "Oh, girl's guitar." But if you see the ladies in Japan, the way they're shredding, forget it. It's not a girl's guitar anymore.
Yeah.
But there's certain things you can't say these days. But yeah. So now there was an interesting thing that you do all your own everything. You're not got a recording contract or anything like that. You do it all, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I literally do everything, and I always say on my channel that everything is me. But I think people don't really understand. They think, oh, you do your videos, but who edits them? So, well, I edit them. So, well, who sends out your CDs? So, well, I send out my CDs. And I mean, I'd say over the last probably 4 years, maybe, when things have got too much to keep up with, that's where I think once you get to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, you then get an option to use spring.com, who are like, I think, partners of YouTube, to do merchandise for you. And at that point, I was ordering merchandise myself, obviously sending them my logo and sending them off, going to the post office. Every t-shirt order that I got, I'd kind of, wrap it up and send it off. But it got to the point where I was spending so much time traveling to the post office and coming back, and then I'd come back and there'd be a CD order. So I think, oh, I've got to go to the post office again. And then it just kind of meant that I was losing a lot of time, and I was still teaching guitar at that point as well. So I had a day job. So yeah, keeping up with everything was started to become really difficult. But once I kind of hit that mark on YouTube, I then outsourced that side of it, just like the t-shirts, and they do mugs and caps and other things that I never did in the first place. It's just kind of bonus stuff. But yeah, that's the only thing that I outsource, because I still send off my CDs myself and sign them and kind of write a message on them, that kind of stuff. And yeah, I've got my website, and I've got my CD on my website, and then on Amazon as well, iTunes. And yeah, my publishing rights, I've gone through TuneCore, which is a third-party company for them to keep tabs on when my music's used and all that kind of stuff. So that's another thing that would just take me too long to keep up with everything that I do, and have to do that on the side. So that's, yeah, just leaving them in charge of that's just a lot easier, just to get an email to say, this video had your song in it or whatever, rather than me trying to search out my songs on the internet. So yeah, I mean, pretty much what I say is that everything that a record label does is what I do. So every job that you get, and even to the point of filming videos and editing them, I'm the person who presses record behind the camera and then runs in front of the camera, and then obviously runs back and setting up microphones and recording, production, mixing, all that stuff. I do that. So
yeah, no, I understand, because I do it all myself. I don't like to rely on anybody else, because they always let you down.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. Yeah,
the t-shirt thing, I've got t-shirts and stuff. Right, but I don't think you need 100,000, because with Spring I can do it on YouTube anyway. Yeah.
I think maybe, I don't know how many years ago it was, but it seemed to be maybe, I don't know whether it was 3 or 4 years ago, but there was a particular point at which I then noticed, I mean, maybe it was always an option, I don't know, and that just took me that long to notice it, or it might have been once I got to 100,000. So yeah, either it's something that's always been there, or it was at 100,000.
No, I don't think it's always been there, because I mean, I'm only on 20-odd thousand, so I'm nowhere near the amount you've got. But how long have you been on?
On YouTube is since 2011. But since 2011, that's when I started the Wings of Pegasus channel, and I had my band, and we were playing gigs, but we weren't really using the YouTube channel at all, really. And even still, I would say that when we started playing, and when I was in my kind of first band, I'm not sure when YouTube actually came around. It might have been in the early 2000s or something like that, but it still wasn't a regular thing to be watching videos on the internet. It was still kind of in its infancy. So we started the channel, but we didn't really use it. And, we'd go and play live, but we weren't really recording any of the gigs. And when it got to a point where kind of probably a few years later, maybe 2014, 2015, I thought, oh, it would be good if we started doing videos on YouTube, because I think it's going to help get us out there a bit more. But then the problem that I had, like you have just said about relying on other people, I'll say, okay, let's get together and just do a video for YouTube. And then people will say, oh, I can't do it this week. I might be able to do it next week. Somebody else will say, oh, I'm going on holiday. This is something that used to annoy me quite a lot. In the summer, they say, oh, I'm going away for 2 weeks, or I'm going away for 3 weeks on holiday. And I'm quite a driven person. So it means that if I have an idea to do something, ideally I want to do it today. And if I can't do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. So to say, right, I'm going to be away for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, that's like, 21 days that I'm looking at my calendar thinking, we're effectively losing time here to other bands that genuinely do want to get somewhere and are out gigging all the time. So for me, that was a bit of a frustrating part of it. And that's why when you go back through my YouTube channel, you'll see that, during those years, there's hardly anything being uploaded, because I couldn't work at the pace that I wanted to. And if you wanted to upload anything, you, with the whole band politics thing, you have to get everyone's agreement that, oh yeah, I'm going to do this video on my own. They said, well, it's not just you in the band, and you kind of had that whole problem. And yeah, so fast forwarding, kind of going through all of those issues until, yeah, maybe till I was 31 or 32. That's when I decided, right, I'm just going to do this myself. And actually at that point, I mean, it's typical that at that point, myself and the second guitarist, who's called Griff, and he's been on a few live streams, and my subscribers know him from the band days, and he's actually in a few of my videos as well.
Yeah.
So it was just me and Griff, or Griff and I, and typically on the very night that he decided that, I mean, he had a kid on the way, and he decided, look, I can't do the music thing anymore. On that very evening, I get home, and just looking through the Facebook messages, and there was a Facebook message from a guy, and quite, I mean, his name was Dante Benuto, I think. He was quite important, and still is quite important, at Universal Records. And he had heard our album, and he said, really interested in, talking to you guys. Maybe we can set up a meeting to do something, with yourselves in the future. And that was Spine Farm, I believe, was the label that he was interested in getting us on. But as I said, it was typical that the very evening it was now just me, that potentially then this break would have come about had we been a band. But I still see that as a bit of a blessing in disguise, that I avoided that because I didn't have a band. We didn't sign a record deal. And I mean, that would have been a major label thing. So I'm actually quite thankful now that it happened how it did, that I would definitely not be in the position that I am now, owning all the rights to all of the music that I've written in the past, had I signed a deal. And yeah, it was something that at the time I thought, oh, it's typical. It's so annoying that that's happened. But then with hindsight, you think, actually, that's probably something happening for the good of your career, rather than, being a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, I'm one of these people. I like to get things done today, not tomorrow, because I'll probably forget.
Yeah, that's another part of it, I suppose.
No, I'm like that. It's like when I started this, I've been 3 years, just over 3 years. When COVID hit, I decided to start this, my channel, and never expect it to go like it's gone. Who wants to see an old guy waffling on about something, but and I just thought, well, it just took off, and I've then I started doing interviews and things, and that, because that's another thing, doing interviews, people saying, yeah, we'll do it, then you're going to get, they don't get back to you, it's all sorts goes off like, but then I started doing it, and I've sort of made friends all around the world. When I went to the warning, turns up, I'm in the queue outside, 2 guys come over, something, from Berlin, and I think a third of that audience come up to me, and I was overwhelmed. I thought, I can't believe this. I'm not used to this.
Yeah. I think a huge part of it for me, and I can see this from the point of view as a musician and as an artist as well, is the authenticity angle, which I always say about the great artists who have had very long careers. They've always just been themselves, and they've made the music that they wanted to make and never changed it, trying to, if a particular style of music is in vogue at the time, and then they change to try and earn more money doing that. I think it's exactly the same with every walk of life, that if you're just yourself on screen, then people kind of lock into that, and you can start to kind of see the people that aren't. And it's probably, going back to your point of organizing interviews and people not answering messages and all that kind of stuff. I think there maybe a different personality thing, where there are some people who, when you message them, to them it's important, and like to me, and to you, every single fan or every single person that comes up to you, or every single subscriber that you get, is important, because we've been through so long of wanting, maybe an extra subscriber, but never actually getting the opportunity to do it. But then you've got other people who might have a level of success that they haven't been through the part of appreciating what it is like to just have to work every day and then try and do it in your time off, and kind of really have to, I don't know, dig your heels in and keep pushing forward and all that kind of stuff. And you do tend to just get a natural appreciation of life in general, and you're just yourself. And I think eventually that is what pays off, because when people do start watching and getting involved with it, you're not having to pretend doing anything. And yeah, there are some people that you kind of see that are trying to jump on the bandwagon, but you know what they're saying about the video, they're trying to think of what to say that will be popular, or and you can tell that they're kind of thinking while they're talking. And I suppose that there's probably millions of kind of reaction channels that don't have any kind of audience, because it's, I don't know, a little bit
too
transparent.
Many edits. There's too many edits. You can tell the edits. I never edit, right? And if I screw up, and I have quite a few times, I've even got the names of the band wrong or the song wrong or something. But then when I realise, then when I'm doing the video, putting my intro on, I'll put write a comment in above me, like silly old so-and-so's got that wrong, yeah. Because I'm not editing. I'm not going to edit me. If what you see is what you get. And I can't see the point in it. And bringing up what you're on about, right? As an artist, how do you feel about this? Right? Somebody does reactions, but they charge people for doing the reaction. Now, to me, okay, you're doing a reaction to that artist, you're going to send the money to the artist, because to me, that's ripping the artist off, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. And this is why, I mean, even on my live streams, I say that you don't have to donate, but the live streams is the only time that I mention anything about that, telling people that you don't have to, just watching is great, but people do anyway. And, it's great. And I am very thankful for that and appreciative of that. But with other videos, analysis videos, I'm there to analyze the performance. I'm not there to say, or again, I see channels who are constantly focusing on the videos that they know will make them money, or at least get them views, so then they can ask for money. And yeah, it really turns me off and turns me away from channels. As if they start their video and say, oh hi, it's me here, and and they put up on screen their PayPal, and please donate and all this. And this is supposed to be a video looking at another band. It's like, the band are the focus. You're not the focus. Yeah, if you're the focus, do your own music and see if people donate.
Totally agree with you there, because like thumbnails, right? Me, I'm in the corner. It's all about whoever it is. I am not there with my mouth open and making a silly face catching flies. Bigger than which a lot of them do. Also, there's the ones that do a reaction and hide it in Patreon. So that means there's no money going any part from their pockets.
Yeah.
Now, I totally disagree with that.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing about doing it that way, which I have seen some reactors do. They say bonus reactions over on Patreon. That is actually now illegal. If you're looking at the copyright terms, and you're talking about fair use, once you take it to another platform, you're taking it away from YouTube, and YouTube is the thing that is governing copyright. So that if you upload a video, as it will be copyright claimed, and the money goes to the artist, like the ad revenue goes to the owner of the copyright. As soon as you take that video and upload it to a third-party site such as Patreon, that's now not covered by YouTube. That's now something that you're doing personally. You're uploading to Patreon and you're saying that this is my creation, and it's not. You're playing somebody else's song, especially with some of the reaction videos where there's no analysis, and it is literally just uploading that to Patreon. At least on YouTube, you're covered. And there's a company that has to, if there is some kind of dispute, obviously they've got channels where that's all organized. You can't dispute it on Patreon. So this is the problem, that if I'm very strict with copyright, being an artist myself and owning my own publishing rights, I know what it's like as the artist. If somebody does a reaction on one of my songs, I know kind of how it works, and I want to do everything on my channel, you know, that is 100% legal and, you know, copyright covered. So yeah, when I see people doing that, they don't realize that if the record company wanted to take them to court, it would be the person they take to court. They wouldn't take Patreon to court. They wouldn't take YouTube to court. It's that person is now taking the responsibility, saying that they have fair use. And then when you look into the fair use law, this is where it has to be transformative. Somebody has to learn something from what you're saying in order for that to be, you know, considered fair use. And this is why I always relate it to news stories where people are reporting on the news because you didn't know this bit of information before, and they're using footage that they don't own, but you're learning about the situation from the footage. And that's what fair use is. That's why, you know, news channels can use it.
Yeah, you'll get them breaking down what they're playing and everything else. And I'm always thinking, well, okay. And then some of these people that break it down will do covers. But look, if you know that much about music, why aren't you producing your own music and putting it out?
Yeah.
You know, I've always been that. But yeah, I mean, like me, I never asked people to like or subscribe. I haven't got a Patreon, right? I've got a PayPal, stuff like that. But I'm about small bands. On my channel, you'll find that there's a lot of people who thank me for finding new bands from all over the world, right? That's what I'm there for, because back in my day, right, I want to buy a guitar. What do you want them for? You know, and there's these new bands. If I can help in any way, support them, you know, I will do. That's what I'm trying to do. And the amount of feedback I get back off of Twitter, some of the main higher up bands have sent me likes. I've told you a couple members out of one band watch me channel. They're not the only ones. There's a few more on it, and it's very humbling. It really is that, you know, all these people watch your channel. I mean, it's like I was watching you breaking it down. It's like with your bandmate one, right? Like you are. There's no backing tracks or anything like that. They're just straight out there and do it. Unlike Rick Beato, it's too compressed. That's another thing as well, right? What have you and Rick Beato got in common? You're always talking about the older music, right? So there's a question: when do you stop listening to new music?
Yeah, well, this is, I mean,
what age?
Oh,
because
I'm not sure, because I think because of the music that I was into when I was growing up, and I started playing guitar at 11 years of age. So I got into Jimi Hendrix, and yeah, this is all, I think my music taste was just determined by the technology at the time, because nowadays you can go online, you can get everything that you want.
Yeah.
But, you know, I used to listen to my dad's records. So, you know, I literally, you know, which interestingly has now come back around, you know, putting records on turntables and listening to them.
Yes,
yeah, that's kind of how I started. And then it was tape. So I then had a Walkman, which was, you know, very fancy in those days, you know, when I was a kid. So my taste was then, you know, just getting my dad's music, you know, because he had like Boston and Van Halen, obviously Hendrix, but then I got into Gary Moore as well. When I started to kind of get more into my guitar playing, then yeah, I started to get into the blues a bit with Gary Moore, and then listen to a bit of Steve Vai, and went in that kind of more technical direction. And then obviously Eddie Van Halen was a technical direction as well, but then started to get into the 80s bands and like Winger and Red Beach and these kinds of players that were technically, you know, very high up, you know, they're tapping and had great technique. And I mean, that was kind of throughout my teens. And then when I was 19, that's when I was then getting into bands and starting to try to write my own songs. And it was all in that hard rock style. Yeah. So I think, my taste has always been towards, I'd say, pretty much anything that I like the sound of, like that I think rocks. You know, I might hear a particular track that might be a bit more progressive, like Dream Theater, but I might think, oh yeah, but that's got a great riff in there, and there'll be something that tweaks my ear towards that. But I don't tend to get kind of too heavy with my own personal music taste. But the other thing about growing up with my parents is that my mum would listen to totally different music, like Motown and kind of classic 60s stuff. And my parents are both into the Beatles, so I had a bit of that in there when I was a kid. So
don't mention the Beatles.
But this is it, that I had so many different sounds that were going on that now, because I liked them as a kid, I think any music that you listen to as a kid and it's just your parents listen to it, you've got a tendency to like it anyway, because it reminds you of being a kid. So a lot of the requests, and that's the other thing about my channel, is that everything is requested. So every video that I'm looking, I'm not kind of looking through and picking just old music. It just happens to be that a lot of old stuff is requested. But I do get more modern stuff requested as well, like Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift. And
no, you know what's going to happen now, don't you? I'll send you a flipping load of requests. They'll be from Japan.
Yeah, you send me a PDF.
But don't say that. No, you see, right. My dad used to listen to Matt Monro, Frank Sinatra, and all that. The Beatles come out. Bloody long-haired kids can't understand what they're saying. But my sister was into them. She's a couple of years older than me. I mean, I'm 70, so I've been around a bit. And but I got into T-Rex, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Hendrix, Deep Purple, people like that. Alice Cooper,
Yeah.
And then of course, I found like Bandmate, because they're a rock band, and I think, these are amazing. Because someone went, they're not playing their own instruments, and I thought, yes, they are. I can tell they are. You can see with it. So that's what set me off, and of course, that's how I started my channel. And then I got on to Nemophila, Love Bite, started Bride Ear, Fake Ear, shall I keep going? Whiskey Dust, it's just, you'd like Whiskey Dust. The guitarist calls herself not Eddie Van. It's like what is it? No, what's the name? But she's put Van Halen on the end of it.
All right, yeah.
And blooming hell, she can play like him. She's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And most of them, Miyako, the guitarist out of Love Bites, she was classically taught on the piano, and then went to the guitar. Oh my God!
Yeah,
she's playing the guitar and the piano at the same time. You see what I mean? Because of the way they're taught, it's so good. And then of course I got involved in that, and of course basically then my channel left this country. And in Indonesia and everywhere, there's so much that, because we get so involved in our own country, what's happening in our own country. At the moment, I couldn't tell you a thing that's happening here, because I reacted to a band the other day and I thought, I don't know where these are from. I better check. This is why I'm doing my reaction. Oh, blooming hell, they're going to kill me. They're from here, from the UK.
Yeah.
But this is what's happened. And I'm just looking, keep finding all these new bands and everything. Honestly, they're incredible, some of them. But I'm one of these for not looking back. I think that's my sister's fault. Always going on about the flipping Beatles and stuff. I wasn't a Beatles fan because they weren't heavy enough for me.
Yeah.
Great songwriters, don't get me wrong, but just not my sort of thing. And of course, then some of the people I react to happen to do covers to the Beatles, so I have to go and react to it. But I don't mind. But this is what it's all about with me. It's finding all these new bands. I don't care where they come from. I'm not bothered. I've done interviews with bands from this country and Japan. Obviously, I need an interpreter sometimes. Hopefully, I've got one coming up with a young lady. She speaks her English is very good, and that'll be brilliant to do an interview with, because they're incredible. They're like yourself, doing what you're doing. A lot of them, and what is it? You said ToneCore, is it?
TuneCore.
TuneCore. A lot of them use that because I have to check who's the copyright, because I've had the worst times when I got 2 copyrights within 4 days of each other, and now I'm having to be careful. I don't mind being blocked. That's fine. It gets blocked. It gets blocked.
Yeah.
But So you have to be so careful. So I'm always checking, but they're okay to react to. It's not that I'm making money out of it, and that's what annoys me. I'm here to try and promote the bands, and any ad revenue goes to them. I'm not bothered.
Yeah, I think that's a huge misconception from people that don't have a channel and don't have a large channel, that they think that you get loads of money from featuring other bands. And this is what I try to explain to people, that that's not the way copyright works. Is I don't own, and I say to them that every video that I do, every analysis video that I do, when I'm analyzing a song that I haven't written, that gets copyright claimed by the copyright owners. And people looking through my analysis videos, I'm only ever looking at another band, another artist. So if you're not making any money from that, then you're not making any money from anything. And I think people, totally miss the point. And especially trolls, they say, oh, can't believe, you're making hundreds of thousands of pounds off the back of other artists. It's impossible. You literally can't do that by law. But yeah, they don't seem to understand that. Yeah, the analysis videos are, for me, an educational thing, because I've been teaching guitar for so long, and vocals as well. I see it as, if I can analyze a band and maybe help somebody with their guitar playing, or even their stagecraft of how they perform live. And this is an interesting, or at least I think it's interesting, kind of comparison to draw with the old school performers and a lot of the videos that I have looked at, and the new artists, is by looking back and appreciating what they used to do when it was all live and they weren't using backing tracks and they didn't have auto-tune and pitch correction. By looking at that, I can point out the things that those artists are doing that now this brand new artist is doing, or another artist isn't doing. And like you said, you've got some bands that are technically just great at playing, but people assume that they're not doing it or they're not singing because it's now, they must be cheating, they must be faking it. So I think it's a good parallel to draw, that by looking at the older artists, we can start to see who's doing it authentically, who's actually learned to play an instrument and sing. Because unfortunately there are plenty of bands, and this is what I do on my channel as well. If there's anything that's not real, and or either auto-tune, pitch corrected, or backing tracks are being used, then I tell people, because I get quite deep into the analysis with pitch monitoring software and being able to see pitch correction on screen. So that's the kind of thing that I think that if you are doing it all yourself, you should get the credit for that. And if people aren't doing it all themselves, then people should know. And then it's up to them whether they still listen to it or not. Some people aren't bothered by it, some are, but at least you're giving them the option, knowing everything that is in front of them, to know that actually he's not hitting that note. And this is another thing that, might be controversial that I'll say now, but I did a video on Greta Van Fleet recently, and it was in a radio station, quite relaxed performance, and I was analyzing Josh's lead vocal, and I was going through the Greta Van Fleet official channel, and I was hearing or watching live videos, but they'd all been pitch corrected, and it was one after the next after the next. So any official video on their channel that gets released has gone through pitch correction first before then being released. But this was a video released by the radio station, so it was on their channel. It wasn't on the official Greta Van Fleet channel. So people were saying, oh, why did you choose this video? Because it doesn't show his vocals are so much better now than they used to be. You should have picked something more recent. And I do reply to people and say, unfortunately, everything on the official channel, because they're a signed band, and obviously reputation and sounding as perfect as possible is what the record labels worry about. It's not the bands that are saying, oh, give that to me, I'm going to pitch correct myself. It's always the record labels. But unfortunately, because of the way that I do the analysis videos, if I was doing a particular live video that's been pitch corrected, I'm going to say it's been pitch corrected, because I'm not going to lie about, oh, look how accurate that vocal is. He's nailing every single note to 440 hertz tuning perfectly. I will say that it's been pitch corrected. So that's why I chose this other one, so that people can hear a real voice, because I think people, unfortunately, now are losing what a real voice is. It's not always perfect. That's kind of the point of music to me, is that it's not perfect. You kind of want to just hear the authenticity of the artist.
Well, that's part one sort of done with, but part two just carries on because it was so long. I just thought I'd split it up. Anyway, I'll say this now as well. Information will all be down below. Links to Phil's channel and everything, so you can sort of go and check it out. So anyway, so part two will be following shortly. So bye for now.